Do you want your business to grow? Do you want the access to global network? Gain the business and investment opportunities. Build lasting business friendships and strategic partnerships. Become a member of CEO Club's network and prepare your business for an amazing change. CEO Club's network is the most effective business platform for CEOs and decision makers to share experiences, explore opportunities, and grow business connections locally and internationally. What do we do for our members? We organize monthly business events with a strong focus on networking. Get exposures and recognitions as we serve members with a wide range of benefits. Members can take part in industry-specific panel discussions, roundtables, lunch meetings, breakfast meetings, awards nights, gala dinners, and other informal gatherings, like cigar nights or high teas. Through our unique CEO Club's mobile app, we help our members to connect with powerful business figures, community leaders, and government officials in selected countries worldwide. So, if you are looking for a multicultural atmosphere, strong networking platform, and millions of B2B connections, CEO Club's network is the right place for you. Powerful global brand and network for decades. More than 50 awards received globally. The knowledge with experience makes the difference. Join CEO Clubs and be part of the whole new world of prestige and pride. Give us a call or visit our website and get connected with a unique world of business opportunities.
Thank you for joining in today's webinar. I am Tariq Nizami, the founder and CEO of CEO Club Network Worldwide. Today's CEO Club webinar is a part of series by experts and insights on how CEOs and business leaders play a crucial role and share the strategies that drive action to lead effectively through this pandemic. CEO Club is an international largest business networking club. Exclusively for elite members get connected with CEOs and senior executive. Is a membership-based organization. We are more than 3 decades old business organization from United States of America, having a presence now in more than 100 countries with very strong presence of our regional office in Dubai, UAE. For more than 14 years, and I'm very proud to say that we are the winner of Dubai Quality Appreciation Award of 2017, which was presented by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and the ruler of Dubai. And we are here to connect and to assist our members as it is a membership-based organization, and we host these kind of webinars to share our valuable members and experts to cope with the current situation or anything that business organization and everything. At this time, I like to play a very short video to see more about who we are.
In joining the CEO Club in Dubai is networking, because by networking with all the other colleagues, CEOs, you manage to have a 360 view of business here and elsewhere in the world.
This is a platform where we have fun, we're like a family, and we sell or buy services or products between each other, or by trips that CEO Clubs create. What I get most of it is the trust I feel in the founders. I am so privileged to be part of this club and to feel that I'm doing something of purpose for the world.
I really enjoy to be a member of a network of dynamic executives. I will call them real business champions, who not only know how to change the rule of the game or designing the future, but most importantly, they come to the club for doing real business.
They've tried as much as possible to do seminars to educate us more and for us to meet one another to actually benefit and share best practices among one another.
I think network platforms like the CEO's Club offers a unique opportunity for human beings to connect with each other. I call it the multiple C's of networking. Conversations, communications, which result in collaborations and cooperations, which finally culminate in what we call building communities.
I am Mahmoud Al-Burai. I'm the chairman of the United Nations Global Compact UAE, and I'm a very proud member of the CEO's Club.
Hi, my name is Atif Rahman. I'm the director and partner of Danube Properties, and I'm a proud member of CEO Club.
Hi, I'm Hassan, CEO of Dubai Cable Company. I love and enjoy being part of CEO Club UAE.
Hi, my name is Asif. I'm the CEO of My Learning Key and the Managing Director of Dream, and I'm a member of the CEO Club.
Hi, I'm Snehal Bhuta. I'm the Director of M Plus Mortgage Consultancy, and I'm a part of CEO Mentor.
Imam, Managing Director at McKinsey Consultant, and a member of the CEO Club.
Assalamu alaikum, Walid Jum'a, CEO and founding partner of United Advocates. Very proud to be member and legal partner of CEO Club.
Shaib Rahimi, VP Business Park at Dubai South. Great opportunity to be here and to be part of this partnership. We're looking forward for a great partnership throughout this year and the coming years as well.
I have been a CEO member for several years. Actually, I was the first female CEO Club's member.
I'm Ahmad Chaudhry, Managing Director of Marcel Mass Insurance Agents, and I'm a proud member of this prestigious platform CEO Club. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Badal Musayis, Tabiat Law and Managing Partner with Sultan Musayis Law Firm. It's my pleasure to be with you here and to tell you that I'm a CEO Club member and I'm proud.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching this video. Let me share that today's CEO Club exclusive webinar topic is reimagining the successful business model in the post-COVID era by our valued member, Professor Christopher Ibrahim, who is the CEO and head of Dubai campus and a senior vice president at SP Jain School of Global Management. SP Jain is one of the top executive education institutions in the world. But let me mention at this time that we supposed to have two topics in covering in this webinar. The other topic supposed to be today how to lead an organization with sustainable speed as a process for the long-term performance by Mr. Kyriakis Kofanas. But unfortunately, due to unavoidable circumstances, he could not be join us. But I think we have a great speaker, Professor Christopher, that who will be, talking about his topic. As you know, the true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the need of others. He or she does not set out to be the leader, but becomes one by the equality of his and her actions and integrity of the intent. And today's session, we will know how the pandemic brought an economic downturn, but also new opportunities for all of us. The business leaders need to take a leap of faith by reimagining the future, rethink strategies, and reinvent their business models. And how we all can look at our leadership in challenging times like these, how to address the anxieties of our teams, how to communicate, how to innovate, how to prepare for uncertain future. So please do note, at this time, I want to mention that after the presentation of Professor Christopher, there will be a Q&A session. So I highly recommend and suggest to all the participants to please do submit their questions in the chat box, and we will have a Q&A session. Let me share about Professor Christopher, our key notice speaker for today. Like I say, he's the CEO and head of Dubai campus and a senior vice president at the SP Jain School of Global Management, a Forbes top 10 economist and Financial Times, top 100 ranked business school with campuses in Dubai, Singapore, Mumbai, and Sydney. Professor Ibrahim has been a visiting professor at many leading universities in Australia, USA, Canada, Singapore, UK. Earlier in Dubai, he headed the executive MBA program for XLRI. Jamshedpur, one of the Asia top business schools. His areas of competence are strategies, marketing, leadership, innovation, neuroscience of decision making, future of education, science of happiness, and design thinking. I think these are the all assistance and support we as the CEOs and senior executive need. So he is a very knowledgeable and informative person with very good things to share with us that can help us in our situation in currently. Much thought that he is a TEDx and a keynote speaker also. He has been successfully presented in numerous global forums and has also conducted many consulting and executive development assignments for global organization, including the World Bank, the Executive Council. So now I'd like to hand over to Professor Christopher.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Tariq, for that lovely presentation, lovely introduction. Honored to be a member of the CEO Club, and I've been there for the last 5 years. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity. I've always enjoyed interacting with members of the CEO Club and the remarkable work that Dr. Tariq and his team put across. This is a great example of what great human beings can do, even in the middle of the challenge, middle of a pandemic. So congratulations, Dr. Tariq and team, for once again, living up to the expectations of all your members. And I'm sure that we have lots of good things that are going to happen in the weeks and months ahead. The topic for this afternoon is reimagining successful business models in the post-COVID era. So the key word there is reimagination. And the good news is that God Almighty has given each one of us the power to imagine, the power to dream, and the power to recreate the realities that we would like for us and for our future generations. So without much ado, let me take you through what I have in mind, which is 5 parts. The current change and disruption. How do we innovate business? I'll give you an introduction to the business model itself. Look at some ideas of how we can think of new business models, and then identifying a mindset which can help us to thrive in the future. This one picture says it all. It probably happened in the month of November, December of 2019, but it picked up momentum specifically on January 18th, 2020, and there has been no turning back from that day onwards. The world has been chased by an invisible enemy. Until we find a vaccine that really hits the markets, we're going to have a million questions. When will this pandemic end? When will this lockdown end? When will the economy thrive? When will my business come back to normal, if at all? And we have many questions that keep perplexing us and taunting us throughout. The rest of my presentation I'm going to share with you. Of course, as Dr. Tariq said, I'd like to first give you the perspective in terms of what is the current state of affairs, and then divert your attention towards some very interesting insights on how we can look at this as a great plethora of opportunities which can be capitalized now and in the future. So $1 million question to each one of us. In the midst of this pandemic, how do you see the future? As Dr. Tariq introduced, I've had the privilege of speaking to corporates across the world. Earlier, I used to travel across, but now I'm doing it sitting in the comfort of my home. But one common question that I ask corporate heads and the CEOs is this question. And here's the good news. A large percentage, at least 50 to 60% of us, still believe the future is going to be better. And that's the history of humanity. That's the history of mankind. That's what we have done. Every time there's been a catastrophe, every time there's been a grave human occurrence, we've come out of it, not just survived, but we've started to thrive after such scenarios. So yes, we will see the future brighter, and it will definitely be better. But of course, we need to see what the current context is, and then see what sense we can make out of it and do what is required to change our mindsets and to change our strategies. I believe we live in an incredible time. Incredible for a number of reasons. We are probably one of history's rare species who have this unique opportunity to, on one hand, face this catastrophic pandemic. On the other hand, look at how we can make the universe a better place. What do I mean by this dichotomy? On one hand, yes, the pandemic has wreaked havoc in the economies, has brought down companies to a standstill, has made millions of people redundant with no jobs. But at the same time, it has also created unique opportunities. The air that we breathe is getting better. It's becoming fresher. The waters are getting purer. In fact, there is some interesting statistics from India where the river Ganges, where they poured in millions of rupees to clean it, could not do what they could do. But the last 6 months of the COVID pandemic has been able to clean and purify the river Ganges. So there are a number of, let's say, positive outcomes that have happened. Less number of murders, less number of traffic jams, less number of road accidents, less number of crimes, and not forgetting that the ozone layer is becoming better and better because of the lower CO2 and carbon emissions. So there are a number of ways to look at this whole thing and decide whether it is an incredible time or not. But here's the context, that the future isn't like it used to be. I come from the older era in the 1960s when I was born. We come from an era where history was predictable. You knew what would happen. In fact, I used to be a consultant almost 35 years back, and we had the courage to actually give companies 5-year, 10-year, and 15-year roadmaps. We would actually give strategic plans for 15 years because life was stable, life was efficient, it was predictable, and it was all about optimization. It's not just the COVID pandemic, but the 21st century has seen a series of such uncertain things that we have coined an interesting term for it called VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. In a VUCA world where the future is unpredictable, what we need is agility instead of stability. What we need is innovation instead of efficiency. And what we need is continuous experimentation rather than optimization. And it's going to be like this, ups and downs and ups and downs. But if you see, at the end of the day, we are going to go up, but it will never be predictable. It will be unpredictable, but we need to be agile, we need to experiment, and we need to be innovative. Post-COVID, our world is already different. So it's not that it will be different, it's already different. And here are some pointers. Governments across the world put in a number of rules and policies. Policies which are do's and don'ts, many don'ts, some do's. And the reason why they had that was to ensure that the health and safety of everybody else. So limited gatherings, travel restrictions, hygiene requirements, protecting vulnerable groups. And here's the interesting part. The one at the bottom, the yellow box tells you that worldwide, there are hundreds of A/B experiments going on, which means, does this work? If this doesn't work, what's the next option? So on and so forth. So there are a lot of lessons to be learned from these experiments and experiences. And in the process, we become better, we become healthier, we become safer, we become secure. Here's the other thing that happens. Because of these new rules and policies, there are new habits and behaviors that human beings are being exposed to. A lot of us are now used to working in remote. We now have our family members as colleagues of our work scenarios. And if you have a pet at home, the pet becomes part of the work environment. We have a mixed work-life balance. Earlier, it was year-marked. So Thursday evening would be family day out. And then Fridays and Saturdays, you spend quality time with the family. And then back again to work on Sundays. Today, it's pretty much 7 days a week. Weekends become weekdays and vice versa. E-commerce and logistics have taken a completely exciting turn for the better. And you see all kinds of delivery models, all kinds of supply chain models, which are evolving. Health combined with digital has created new platforms. E-health. Health in the form of digital interfaces, whether you want to order pharmacy items online, whether you want to have an appointment with your doctor, whether you want to update your medical records with the doctor, whether you have a wearable with you, which is sending sensitive data, relevant sensitive health data to your physician, they're all part of the new digital transformation that's taking place in the health sector. There are more shocks that are to be expected. 1/3 of the global population, in some form or the other, where or is currently in temporary lockdown. There's still unemployment challenges across the world. Many places, bankruptcies, mass bankruptcies. Borders are still closed for the right reasons, for security reasons, for safety reasons, for health reasons. And it's created a new kind of xenophobia, as we call it, which is fear of foreigners, fear of aliens, and populism. And as a result, going back to the new normal will not be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. It's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. But coming from a background of positive psychology and neuroscience, I can tell you it will be difficult, but definitely not impossible. Because hiding behind every word impossible is that beautiful thing said, I am possible. So when each one of us start thinking impossible is nothing and I am possible, we create a community of possibles, and a community of possibles can certainly work together, collaborate together, cooperate together to create a possible, positive global community. So some interesting shifts that have taken place and some interesting options, opportunities, and questions that come from these shifts. These have been analyzed by global trend companies, research companies. So one of it is, we all know F1 sports, the #1 in car racing, motor car racing. They switched to esports with real drivers. So you had the likes of Hamilton and Lewis Hamilton and others who were actually driving cars, digital cars, if I may use that word, esports with real drivers. Think about it. That's a kind of crazy but real combination. Police helmets with infrared vision, which help them to also see stuff at the same time protect themselves. Already a common scenario in places like China. Indoor delivery robots, which is now becoming more a norm in hotels, in restaurants, in various other service centers where distance becomes very relevant, and we need to maintain that. Here are 5 major shifts that are happening thanks to a shift in human behavior. #1 is geopolitics. So today, rather than a global world which needs to collaborate, we need to collaborate. We're also finding protectionism from various country leaders who are trying nationalist, with fervor, trying to, protect their ideologies and economic policies. Supply chain disruptions have created new opportunities and challenges for industry. Contactless everything is becoming the norm in technology, and in regulation, we are now looking at new privacy laws, many of them which are coming in the last 6 to 7 months. And in macroeconomics, we are finding that capital is becoming extremely scarce. It's not that money is not there, but people have started conserving. In any recession, you'd find people conserving liquidity, and cash becomes the king because liquidity becomes a challenge. Now, here are the offshoots of some of these key shifts. We are finding, and I'll explain each one of them. So I'll skip the slide and go straight to the next one, where each one has some interesting insights. #1 shift is anxiousness, loneliness, and depression. We are social creatures. Our social brain is supposed to be very active, which connects, which collaborates. That's why organizations like CEO Clubs is not just a business networking platform. It does business networking. But beyond the business networking is the power of human connections, the power of human collaboration. And when we lose that, we feel anxious, we feel depressed, we feel lonely. We miss our colleagues, we miss our social networks, we miss our friends and members from other fraternities like the CEO's Club. So this is happening. And so is there an opportunity there? Yes, there seems to be a big market for remote therapy and coaching. So one of the things, now you find that pet dogs, there are pet dogs available for hire, pet dogs available for certain time-bound periods. There are social games that are becoming a big boom opportunity, House Party and Discord. And then there are platforms that are re-evolving into newer things. For example, Zoom and Webinar Jam are primarily meeting platforms, but they're also metamorphosing into marriage platforms, party platforms, so on and so forth. So the opportunities are endless, and the more you look at it, the more you'll find interesting correlations. The second one is the damaged trust or the reduced trust in hygiene of people and products. Some of you may have experienced this phenomenon. You may be living in an apartment block, and I've experienced it myself. Your friendly neighbor suddenly becomes very skeptic. He or she doesn't want to travel with you on the lift. They look at you with eyes of suspicion, eyes of doubt. And it's a privilege because sometimes you get to travel alone. Nobody wants to travel with you on the elevator. But it also talks about the damaged trust in the hygiene of people and products. You may be masked, you may be wearing the gloves, you may be wearing everything required, but still people are skeptical. So can we look at this as an opportunity for packaging companies to redesign packaging, to look at transferring health records digitally, to look at various other data that can be transferred digitally without contact? Can we focus on cleanliness? And I'll give you some examples of how the healthcare industry and restaurants have done that effectively now. And can we look at now science-forward products over natural products, which become contact-free, and both in terms of deliveries and drop-offs. So again, if you look at it, one is a phenomenon, one is a shift, a behavioral shift. The other is a great opportunity that is waiting to be tapped. So it's up to us to form the right insights and take that forward. Travel restrictions. I mean, I used to travel 50 to 75 days a year, and it used to be in and out of hotels and airports. Today you're restricted. Does that mean you become locked into isolation? Not really. You find out new ways for which you can connect with the world. A webinar jam is a good example. A Zoom platform is an example. I probably do more webinars and conferences now rather than when I used to travel by flights. So that's one dimension of it. The second dimension, we heard a new term from the local hotel industry, which spoke about, staycations, where you stay in the same place but take a vacation. So there's nothing to stop us from going to Fujairah or Ras Al Khaimah or Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Sharjah for a staycation. Hotels are now opening up their doors, offering privileges, benefits, and luxuries for people to use this as a privilege. So local tourism could become a huge opportunity. We could have extensive holidays. Holidays, it's not there. And maybe after 6 o'clock. So a quarantine, even in the quarantine period, we can look at exclusive, extensive holidays. So again, it's a way of rewiring our thought process, rewiring our minds towards newer opportunities, towards newer, insights. So, and here's the interesting part: places which we normally used to neglect, the remote places and the rural places, are now becoming luxury escapes. You must have seen this phenomenon a few months back in France, where they had to actually stop people moving from cities to the countryside because the countrysides didn't have the infrastructure to handle all this tourist traffic. So again, great new opportunities. Can we look at rural homes which can convert into places which can be stopgap restaurants or hotels? Again, opportunities to be explored. Look at this one. The fourth shift is optimized work from home setups beyond the typical office jobs. Many of you may be familiar with this. We started with just a mobile or a laptop, and then we made our homes a little space where we had an office space like mine at the background. You can see is my dedicated office space. Nobody disturbs me when I sit here and work. Now, you will find that companies now are trying to capitalize on this and say, hey, should we cut down on office space? So we are moving from tangible assets to an intangible asset, a service asset economy. So would we waste enough money on rents and capital cost on holding on building space or office space? So that could be another interesting thing. Many furniture companies, many furniture designers are coming with very interesting contraptions which could be home friendly and office friendly. So you could have office furniture that can alternate as a domestic furniture and vice versa. And we are now looking at new policies and insurances which can also follow through to take care of people's health while they are at home working. So again, number of opportunities which can evolve. Look at the tensions and conflicts. This is an offshoot of the anxiety and the loneliness and depression. So people operating in survival mode. And this is where, Dr. Tariq casually mentioned, but a very important word, the power of communication. Now, as leaders, as business bosses, we need to keep our people informed about what we're doing. Otherwise, this could, create unwanted tensions and conflicts. But in the milieu of tensions and conflicts, there are a couple of very interesting opportunities that have evolved. One of the biggest searches that's happening in Google is something called force majeure. Some of you may be familiar with the term. It's called superior force or act of God, as how politicians would like to escape when they haven't performed something. But lawyers shifting, to digital ways of working, and which will again create a lot of automated legal work, automated accounting work, automated medical work, digital distance, but new opportunities that can evolve. So you could either be a service provider, a technology provider, or you could be one of those who are using it, which again means that you're making more money. So for example, I, for one, in the last couple of months, haven't met my doctor physically. I talk to him over telephone, I talk to him over a Zoom call, and then he prescribes the medicine which comes to me, in a digital format, and I have to take it with my insurance card. I have to send it through WhatsApp to my pharmacy, and the pharmacy delivers the medicines at home, all sitting at the comfort of your home. So yes, the tensions and conflicts are there, but they have evolved into newer opportunities. Unfortunately, global unemployment. But here's a very interesting insight, both from experience and from the global trends. I can tell you, every time there's been an economic recession resulting in job losses, it has been a boom time for entrepreneurs. Because here's the beauty of human psyche. When you're pushed into a corner with no options but to survive, you will come out with the best, most ingenious ideas. We have seen this happening in every recession. And from a business school perspective, I can tell you, every time we've had a recession, our MBA graduates don't look for jobs, they start creating jobs. So two things that you need to do if you're a business professional. One, from your personal perspective, reskilling and training. And if you're a working professional, you need to always keep your eyes and ears open for a business on the side. It could be a part-time business. It could be run by other members of your family. But that's an interesting thought that you need to have. So you have a plan B. Many times we forget that we always say if plan A doesn't work, go for plan B. But I'd like to assure you, after A, there are 23 more, letters. So from plan B to plan Z, you have another 23 more options. Keep those options, eyes and ears open, and keep those options open. So yes, the unemployment, paranoia is hitting us big time, but that shouldn't phase us. It should allow us to upskill ourselves, retrain ourselves, and look for new business opportunities. The seventh shift is the takeout, home delivery, everything. I just shared with you my pharma experience. So everybody today, in fact, Dubai has been blessed that way. Dubai, when I say UAE, has been blessed that we have people who used to deliver right from, so when I used to, tell my friends and family in India that the laundry man comes and takes your clothes and then, gets it, ironed and washed and brought back, they would look at you with surprise. But today that's become more a norm than an exception. So specialized delivery solutions, even for foods like, frozen foods. We recently worked with a luxury chocolate manufacturer in India. And the chocolates are so soft that they need to be always under the freezer. So we found unique ways by which we can actually get the packaging to the customer, delivered at home with the chocolate intact, the soft chocolate intact, not becoming gooey. So again, interested specialized delivery solutions, which can also optimize supply chains. Well, VR shopping and mass drone deliveries have still not become a reality. They are experimenting with it in bits and pieces, but have not reached the mass market. But I think it's just a question of time when even that will happen. And because of this contactless social distancing that is expected, newer opportunities, newer avenues are opening up. So digital adoption, okay? So you have ceremonies and rituals, large weddings which happen by remote, and people with special needs. So new kinds of opportunities happening. Zoom is not just becoming a meeting platform, it's also becoming one of the leading wedding platforms. I recently had one of my colleagues whose daughter got married way back in Canada, and she had all her relatives all across the world connecting on Zoom. They blessed the couple. It wasn't the real, the physical wedding, but it was next to, not having a wedding at all. So again, interesting options available. Shift number 9 is there is a complete, meshing of our job and our personal lives. We had a job, and then we had a personal life. Today, it's now become almost one with the other. In fact, I had to, in between, speak to my wife who wanted something to give to my housemate, which is the life that you have to get used to now. And so, normal times, we would, dress for the work scenario, then you would be casual at home. But today, all these have happened. So as a result, there are opportunities in what we call digital alter egos. In other words, we'll have more avatars, both physical and digital, which will manifest itself in reality. And the last shift that I want to share with you this evening is the value of certified immune consumers. What does this mean? That you and I go to a restaurant, we're worried. What is the guarantee that the fellow who serves your food is not infected or carries a virus which is, as they say, asymptomatic? These were words we never had any idea 6 months back, but today we use them as part of our lingo. So is there a way we can assure it? Many restaurants are assuaging those anxieties by allowing robotic waiters to come and serve food. We used to look at it more as a fancy thing, but now again, it's becoming more a norm in cities across the world, because people feel more comfortable presuming that the robot does not transfer any pathogens or, COVID germs. Fine. So let's look at a couple of examples of how companies have thrived, not just survived, but thrived during these pandemic times. Again, I want you to keep an open mind. The reason being, one of the things that I teach is something called cross-industry innovation. What is cross-industry innovation? The solution to your problem or your industry problem is probably solved by another industry somewhere else. All you need to do is keep your eyes and ears open. So I want you to keep that perspective when these examples are being shared. So it may be contextually for a particular industry, for a particular brand, but in a larger context, if you can keep your eyes and ears open and probably stretch your imagination, ask yourself a question. Is there an idea that I can pick out from this particular example? And then you would find you all the more wiser. Number 1 is Shopify. Many of you may be familiar with Shopify already. Shopify was coming as a very interesting threat for Amazon. Of course, it takes some time before they become as big as Amazon. But what Shopify has done is more for the retailers than for the consumers. Of course, now the consumers also benefit by leaps and bounds. But Shopify is an e-commerce platform which is now on a challenge run to Amazon itself. Because in the last 6 months, they have increased their bandwidth to almost about 1 million online businesses and about 100,000 point of sale systems. They are growing by the dozen. And as a result, they have a whole range of options available for the low touch economy. By the way, the current economy now has a very interesting term. It's called the low touch economy. It's not the no touch, because we still touch a lot of things, but the touch is going to be low vis-a-vis high touch. Before we used to touch everything and anything, but low touch economy means there are restrictions to what we will be doing. So yes, Shopify has offered a whole plethora. So if you're in the retail space, it might be a good idea. I don't have much more time to discuss this in detail, but certainly you can explore this. It's an absolutely amazing e-commerce platform offering a whole plethora of services available to retailers, small, big, and large. Okay, so you can use its sales solutions for various kind of physical options for your retail selling. So you don't need to worry, will the customer come into your shop? he or she may not come or hesitate to come in, but Shopify can solve that puzzle for you. Here's another one, a very simple. Many of us must have tried Panera bread in some form or the other. Panera is now in about 2,000 locations in different parts of the world, headquartered in California, 50,000 employees, $5.7 billion revenue. But what I like about Panera is its continuous obsession towards innovation. By nature, they were a very innovative company, which is why they have grown themselves. Fresh is their keyword, just like how Volvo owns the safety label, Panera owns the fresh label. So whenever you go to a Panera bread shop or a Panera restaurant, you're expecting fresh food. So they had to maintain that same order, and by Jove, they're able to do that very, very successfully. So what they have created is they have reinvented themselves with low-touch distribution channels. So which means contactless deliveries where possible, where they have brought in curbside pickups, and already they had 50% of the business coming from e-commerce, and extra focus on health and safety. So wellness becomes a very, very important thing for fresh food, and they have ensured that they do it. All employees go through multiple temperature checks multiple times in the day, and the interior design has been upgraded with plexiglass. So if you come to eat in a Panera restaurant, you're safe and rest assured that you have it clear. Now here's the best part. Panera is now looking at newer businesses. Because of their efficacy in distribution and e-commerce, they're now looking at delivery of basic groceries, which is now an extension of their product offering. They're also looking at, so if you're a company that's selling breads, and I'm using bread loosely, okay, breads, cakes, bakery items, what prevents you from selling other items? If you're already selling using an e-commerce platform like Shopify, what prevents you from selling other items? So I think one of the biggest lessons for us in this pandemic is to have an absolutely open mind. Absolutely open mind. Impossible is nothing. So the more you expand your ideas, the more you expand your mind, you will find a whole range of options and opportunities available. They are also going beyond to offer free meals to children and families who are sheltered in a place, 500,000 meals to count. So you also make a difference. Here's another very interesting example from the home gymming, equipment company. Peloton is a home gymming company. It's not just home gymming as in having those treadmills, but they do a lot of interactive exercises, so software with hardware. So what they did is this at-home exercise company created a unique phenomenon because people are health freaks, they want to do it, gyms were closed. So they used that little window, those 3 to 4 months when gyms were closed almost all over the world. They created this unique opportunity by giving almost free discount, free offers and at highly reduced prices to give these equipments, try these equipments, and then use the software to practice. And today, they have also created a digital app for this pandemic scene and offered a 90-day trial at home. It's really picked up the business by multiple percentages. And here's the best news. From a business perspective, the first quarter earnings went up by 60%. When companies are crying hoarse about recession, here's a gymming company, home gymming company, that has increased its revenues by 60%. So you have to now see. So this is an example again. So how can we bring a home gymming experience to something that we are doing, and how can we capitalize on it? My fourth example, some of you may have heard, this is very exciting for vegans and vegetarians. This is burger, which is plant-based. Beyond burger, beyond meat, beyond burger. So again, this is because, meat is now getting scarce because of the restrictions and all that. So what they have done is meat alternatives have taken the space. It used to be a fringe trend, but today it's come into mainstream thanks to these new opportunities. So this is almost real. I haven't tasted it, so I wouldn't know how it tastes, but apparently people have tasted it. I have a friend of mine back in the US who says it's as good, if not better, minus all the extra carbs and calories. Yeah, so that's good news for you. So what they're trying to do, they're positioning themselves away from traditional meat as a healthy and a better alternative. And as a result, now, agricultural supply has been sabotaged. So this could be a huge opportunity Combine this with 3D printing possibilities, which have already started combining the two. You have an absolutely exciting business model to look at, which can again now work in restaurants and fast food cafes, so on and so forth. Right. So in other words, what we are seeing is opportunities at different levels. So you may be in any one of these positions. Whatever business you're in, look for new markets, look for new clients. See what you can do to retain your existing clients and existing markets. Let me give you one example from the first space, which is from our own industry. We are a traditional brick and mortars institution. When the COVID pandemic hit us, and many of you know that we have multiple campuses in Dubai, Singapore, Sydney, and Mumbai. So we were badly hit. So we don't sit down taking this. So taking a leaf from our own innovation labs, we said, how do we reinvent ourselves? So we asked ourselves a question. Can we recreate the same multi-campus, multinational experience on an online platform? Today, as we speak, we have two amazing innovations within that platform. One is where we retain our existing customers by providing them an online experience as good as the face-to-face. And for newer clients, we have created a whole slew of programs, online programs, which have now been uniquely offered for a whole slew of customers. In fact, morning I had just before the meeting, I had a discussion with our president, how he was talking about how newer towns and cities are lapping up to this new e-format because they can't afford to come to a big city and study, but here's an opportunity for them to do it. Of course, price points will be different, but it's a great opportunity. So retaining customers, looking at new markets or new offerings. Can we give something else, along with that? So as I said, Panera Bread now offering groceries. So creating a new offering, for another need for that. So the delivery system is the same, but you create a new offering. Or can we look at a complete new white space? That white space is left up to your imagination. You decide what you want to do with it. What prevents us? It's just a closed mindset. We open up, a whole world opens up. Right. So here are some examples of how you can do that. So if relationship, is broken, that's the cost. And point of sale becomes inaccessible, especially during the height of the pandemic. And please be aware that I'm not trying to scare you. There could be other such challenges coming on an ongoing basis. But if we prepare ourselves now for this particular pandemic, we can be ready for similar challenges which might come in the future. So what you could do is some of the solutions you can look at is look at a company like Go In Store. What does it do? It offers a solution for salespeople in retail, enabling them to guide customers remotely. So you don't need to be there in the shop. That's what a retail salesperson will do. But now you're trying to take the same expertise to a remote level. Jewelries in China are doing it. This is a real estate property called, which is doing that. You can do it with a company like Warby Parker, which is famous for spectacles and other online items. So you can show multiple items to the client. You can send multiple items, okay, and then allow the customer to pick up stuff. So different ways of experimenting. That's what I said. Innovation, experimentation, and agility. So these are three buzzwords that you need to keep in mind. And these are examples of agile, speed, acting with speed, innovation, and experimentation, right? You can also look at B2B sales chatbots and virtual events. Now, I'll give you an example from our own industry. I mean, we run a state-of-the-art recording theater back in India, and we were stuck. No business could happen because studios and theaters were asked to close down. July, they opened up, and when we opened up, we didn't have business because clients were scared to come and do recordings. Then my son, who runs the show there as a director, looked at a very unique opportunity. Can we run live events as virtual events? And lo and behold, we found two customers, one local and one who was a US-based guy who returned to India and got stuck in COVID. Now we are running live virtual events, sitting inside the platform, inside the studio. Of course, we have invested in a lot of hardware and software, but it has reinvented the business itself. You can run a live event as if it's a live event in a virtual platform, right? So many ways for which you can look at. That's a white space that we created for our own business. Here's another interesting example. One of it you may be familiar. When you have physical interaction restrictions, Is it the end of the day? Not really. So on the right hand, you see a restaurant which has got these closed, isolated compartments, whereas a family of 2 or 3, you can sit inside that compartment and have your food in peace, at the same time enjoy the scenery outside. Or to give a local example, that's the Mall of the Emirates, which opened up the drive-through movie hall. Many of you may be familiar when we opened up. Mall of the Emirates was one of the first to capitalize on this. So whatever, you can do private showings. So you may be an artist, you may be somebody who's got some cultural stuff to share. It can be done as private viewings or smaller, numbers of people that can be used to do it. So many service and retail businesses are adopting to these things, drive-through service model. Of course, we're familiar with it in fast food restaurants, but now we are seeing this trend in other industries. Here's a classic example. That's a dentist. Now, she can't run out of business. She is using plexiglass divider. That's a very simple but very useful contraption that ensures that the distance is maintained. At the same time, she's able to do what she has to do, right? So again, you can look at some very interesting solutions, safety labels, where we need physical close-up. Then can we look at robotic, equipments to sanitize, to do all the grind work. So again, we need to relook stuff, antiviral materials, disposable for cleaning and disinfecting. Right, here are 3 super examples. Okay, how do we move from a defense strategy to an offense strategy? Okay, so many times what happens when a pandemic or a catastrophe hits us, we cow down and we try to see what we can do. But rather than can we do an attack mode? Can we go full on to do it? Here are 3 examples of companies that have done it. Sanofi is a French drug company, and this company, when it was hit by these big pandemics earlier, what they did was they would spend more on R&D and more on production, more on manufacturing to keep their product line, going in full steam. So as a result, they not only gain market share, they outperform the peers in the in the stock market. So this is another strategy where you don't cow down and look for opportunities, but go head on to do what you do best and go forward. Then it of course it picked up a larger company like Aventis, which was a Franco-German pharma company, and Sanofi was able to take over successfully because of an aggressive stand-in, increasing market share, productions, sales, and of course takeovers. Alibaba is a classic example. Alibaba leaves no stone unturned. During the last pandemic, the SARS outbreak, that's the time when Alibaba became almost $500 billion e-commerce company, because that's the time they realized that here's a huge opportunity, go the full haul. So that's another thing. When you find an opportunity, don't, because under normal, I'll tell you where the difference is. Under normal circumstances, we would do test marketing, we would do it, we start small, economies of scale happen later, but this is the opposite of all that. You find an opportunity, go the full haul, hit it, and then become the market leader. And cosmetics company Lin Quinzuan, I hope I pronounced it right. Sarah, you'll have to help me later. Okay, was forced to close 40% of its stores due to COVID-19. So what they did was they redeployed. That's what I was telling. The beauty advisors were deployed from the retail store to the online platform. They said the beauty advisors are there. Talk to them, and they'll give you. So first, they gave a reconnect with the customers. So they became leveraged digital tools. They used tools like WeChat, and then they actually connected with customers, and they drove online sales. So they actually achieved 200% growth compared to prior sales. This was a report in Harvard Business Review. So that's the interesting part. So this decade is a decade of incredible change. So let's not forget it. Let's not hide our heads in the sand. Pandemic is just one part of it. There are many other things that are disrupting us. We need to be prepared that the last 20 years have been much bigger, much larger than the last 250 years. But as I said, the philosophy has to be anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible. We need to keep our eyes and ears open and look for a world of relentless change. Here's one interesting thing. If you see that graph, this is the shift between ownership and value of tangible assets to ownership and value of intangible assets. I looked for statistics beyond 215, it wasn't that 2015, but the trend is even larger. So you find more and more of intangible assets becoming valuable. Companies like Apple, companies like Alibaba, companies like Amazon, apart from the physical infrastructure, I think the more important value is the intangible assets. So the question you need to ask yourself, what are the intangible assets that we have? If we don't have, what are the intangible assets that we can create, and at what value can we sell them? Because the rules of the business are changing constantly. So that's a fun picture from India. This is in the streets, in the back roads of Rajasthan, where you'll find everything colorful. Rajasthan by landscape is very dry, it's desert, but they augment that with the color in every little thing. The clothes, the lorries, the trucks, and of course the auto rickshaws, which are commonplace there. Here's the most interesting insight from my background in neuroscience. We all have an awesome brain, an absolutely amazing brain that's capable of reimagining anything possible. We normally subscribe ourselves to one particular side of the brain. The left brain, which is called the emotional brain, the right brain, which is called the emotional brain, the intuitive or the connected brain, or the left brain, which is called the rational, analytical, and focused. Now, here's the bad news. A lot of us would compartmentalize ourselves into one of this. You would commonly say to yourself, I'm the analytical kind of guy, I can't do creative stuff. Or you say, I'm the creative kind of person, I can't do analytical. But here's the good news. You and I are capable of remarkable stuff, and the 21st century is all about combining the right and the left brain. So the 21st century leader is somebody who is not only intelligent, but he or she is also imaginative. So you've got data on one side, you've got your imagination, your design thinking, your innovation, your creativity on the other side. Every one of us are capable of that. I don't have time to get into details of that. Maybe it's another day of another time. We do a lot of workshops. You can attend one of them. But the good news, you can take it from me as a professor, that we all have an awesome brain which has a very active right and an equally active left side. It's up to you to put both to practice. There are simple tips and techniques by which you can put both to practice. We have moved from a today focus to a future focus, from corporates. This is the 20th century to 21st century. We have moved to ecosystems. We have moved from optimization to innovation, as we saw earlier, from physical to digital, from hierarchies to networks, from experts to integrators, from functions to projects, from analytical to intuitive, from shareholders to stakeholders, and from profit to progress. So let's not forget, the paradigms of business are changing, and we need to change with that. Last few thoughts, the next 10 minutes, and I'll complete my presentation, take questions. The 21st century business is enlightened and energized by a changing world. Now, here's the best part. It harnesses the power of human ingenuity and intelligent technologies to be a force for progress in society, creating and sharing value among all participants. So pandemics like this, catastrophes like this, bring the world together, bring human wisdom, human ingenuity, and intelligent digital technologies together to create amazing level playing fields for everybody in the future. So business model, short introduction to what a business model is. It looks at answering 4 questions in very simple terms. Conceptually, a business model answers, what do we want to offer the customer? Why should it be profitable? Because we need to have a model that makes money. Business model, in other words, is the way an enterprise, an organization, or an institution makes money. And making money in the simplest rudimentary form is profits, which is a difference between costs versus revenues, right? So as a result, we are looking at answering that question. Then how is the value proposition created, which is the value chain? So we look at the value proposition, we look at the value chain, we look at the revenue model, and then focus on who is our target customer. In other words, the target market segment. And the moment you look at this from an innovation perspective, a design thinking perspective, we need to ask, can we change our value proposition? Can we change our revenue model? Can we change our value chain? can we change our target audience? And the answer to these 4 questions lies in you talking to your employees, talking to your stakeholders, talking to consultants like us. You can come to us and we will help you. So in different ways, you can address this by changing the what, changing the who, changing the how, and changing the why. And believe me, it is not technology, because normally we think technology is a business model. No, technology does not add value. Technology enables business strategy, which defines a business model, which then creates value. So technology or a new product does not create value. It is the business model that creates the value. It's how you make the money by answering the question who, what, how, and why. Right. 10 types of innovation. Some of you may be familiar with this, from business models to ecosystems to configurations to organizations and capabilities to core. In other words, in each of these things, you can bring about innovations. Product performance, product systems, service, experience. Ask yourself, what are the things I can change? Channel, for example. Our conventional channel was face-to-face. When face-to-face was faced with challenges, we said, can we look at another way to distribute the value? And then we created the online platform. You create cutting-edge technology, create cutting-edge value add, and then on top of that, build the program, build the product, you have a winner. Again, what is the way you want to express the brand's offering? And last but not the least, how do you want to engage the customer? At the end of the day, we are talking about customer engagement. This is one of the tools that we use in our business model innovation workshop. I don't want to get into details and confuse you, but it's an interesting way to look at where you're currently and how you can create new business models. I'm going to use the energy sector as an example of how you can innovate. So we are talking about energy as a product or as a service. So one of it is distribution. So you as, let's say, a Seva or a Diva actively manages the grid. Or you're also involved in the transmission, or you're giving the transmission to somebody else. Or you're doing bulk generation based on a base load. Or you're doing distributed generation. Or you're generating only based on a demand, customers becoming active consumers. Or you are a storage company that stores that particular, and energy is just an example in context. You can use it in any other context. Then microgrids, which are managed by clusters of customers. And all these are already there in the energy innovation ecosystem. Can we look at newer products within that energy ecosystem, like oil companies getting into solar, oil companies getting into renewable energies, or the customer itself becoming an active participant in the ecosystem? And last but not the least, can there be a retail format? When electricity and batteries come into the fore, you will find this format becoming the new market paradigm. Again, another example from the the transportation industry. Many of us know that, radically revolutionized by Uber and Lyft, badly hit during the pandemic. Now looking at newer options. Can they look at autonomous cars? Can they look at hiring out electric scooters? Can they look at bike sharing? So again, the opportunities are endless. You can look at many different ways of changing it. Can we do something with the drivers? Can we do something with the riders? If you keep asking these questions, trust me, some remarkable, exciting things come out of it. I have to rush through because I've been given 45 minutes and I would like to respect that time. But if if time and situations permit, we can run a full workshop. We do that all the time. So, I can give you more details of that. So again, to encapsulate, the change and disruption are happening, but along with that, there is growth. We need to identify the shifts. We need to look at the insights, look at the patterns, look at examples, look at best practices, and then see how we can, re-innovate and reimagine business models, because there are many ways by which this can be done, and we need to look at all those options. So for the pandemic, our job, our duty, our responsibility is to solve important problems using radical innovations. Radical is radical, which means out of the ordinary, using new disruptive technologies and not forgetting the power of human ingenuity and human wisdom. So how do we keep businesses going through these tough times? A very simple framework. We need to shape our own vision. Each company, each individual, each enterprise has their own vision about how you want to shape your future. You need to have passion to make life better, not just for you, for all your stakeholders. you need to have an audacious attitude. Audaciousness is beyond normal courage. You need to have the persistence to make things happen. You need to act with speed and agility. You need to understand that change is happening and you need to make sense of the change. And finally, you have to connect all of this with the most important resource in your organization, which is your people. So when you connect these ideas with people, you're creating a remarkable ecosystem which will not only sustain the pressures of the present, but will also thrive in the exciting opportunities of the future. In this tough, challenging times, it was Mahatma Gandhi who said, be the change that you want to see. It starts with you, it starts with me, it starts with each one of us, and then it pervades the ecosystem. And to do that, we need to be bold, we need to be brave, and with that God-given brain, be brilliant. I want to thank every one of you for listening to this presentation. And I thank CEO Club, Dr. Tarek, Ms. Sarah Dong, Jenabeth, and the rest of the team, Ariane, for doing an amazing job. You keep doing these great things and giving a platform for people to connect ideas and people. So thank you, Dr. Tarek, once again, and thank all the participants for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, I think thank you very much, Professor Christopher. I think it was very informative and very positive thoughts, that we as a senior executives can definitely learn a lot in today's webinar, that how to adjust yourself and how you can improve and how can you modify your current business, and I think there were a lot of things you touched, but, like you mentioned that you should travel a lot, and stay in a hotels, so now I'm sure you heard of it, that people are so used to of traveling was that the Qantas Australian airline, they offer a flight of nowhere, and it was sold out in 10 minutes. So people are so desperate of traveling, But at the same time, as a business, you can see how much saving that business have done by not flying, hotel accommodation in multiple ways, So I think there is, like you said, there are pros and cons, But I think in last 6 months, we all have learned a lot. We have learned a way how to improve ourselves, how to be connected virtually worldwide. I think I feel that this wake up call that at least help a lot of businesses. I know we all going through different businesses, and there are always new opportunities. So I always say that when business going blurry, you have to adjust your focus. If you are focused, your business, learning and modifying it and focus, as the FOCUS means, F means follow on course until successful. So we have to focus our business into a direction that we can cope. Crisis, challenges is always part of our life, personal or business, is how you cope with it. And the second, my advice that I always say, that a lot of problem in the world would disappear if to each other we don't talk about the problem, we talk about the solutions of the problem, and be a responsible citizen and responsible person, and to resolve this issue. So these are just some of my thoughts. There are, Professor, some questions are, but I don't know, you can read, but I'll just go.
Check them out. Yeah, sure. I will.
Yeah, if you can answer maybe one or two questions, because we're going abroad, over time. Yeah.
So one is a common thread. So two people have asked a very pertinent question, that yes, the current pandemic makes us think like this. When things become normal, won't we go back? And the answer is yes and no. I'll tell you what will happen. Habits happen over a period of just 90 days. So within 90 days, we pretty much seal a habit, and within 6 months, it becomes part of a behavior. So it becomes a new norm, a new behavior. That's from the science of habit, the science of human behavior. Now, having said that, there are a number of good things, as Dr. Tarek just said. There are a number of pros coming out of this pandemic, and many of them will stick through. Now, look at our own progression. I come from an era when we didn't even have a telephone at home. So if I had to make a telephone call, we would have to go from 4 houses next, and that house would be the one house where everybody will, the local, town, everybody will go for town. Now, today we all are adapted to mobile. In fact, we've come to the other way, where we can't live without a mobile. People have breathing problems when they are away from the mobile phone. That's the other extreme. So to answer that question, yes, we are creatures of habit, but when new things happen, new habits, new behaviors come in, it becomes part of us. So adaptation, assimilation, and acculturization will be part of the human development process. So a number of these new things will remain, and it's good for all of us. So the answer is yes to answer Monmoon and Mr. Ramchandran. Yes, we will. Human memory may be short, but there are a number of things which will continue. Same thing with our own televisions. We had black and white televisions. We've now moved on to 3D televisions, the 4K, 8K. The latest one is 8K. So we keep adapting and upgrading with technology. But please remember, it's a beautiful combination between human wisdom and digital intelligence. Never ever underestimate the power of human wisdom. Right. The other question Dr. Manmohan Singh has asked is, in most of the companies, past performance taken as a predictor for future, how do you change that? I mean, you are the boss, you're the CEO, sir. You have to take the call from there, because past need not necessarily be. In fact, I normally use the analogy of a pencil. We all are like a pencil. You see, a pencil writes. It can write rubbish. It can also write some of the world's greatest poetry. It can write formula, algorithms, and profound stuff. It can design architectural marvels. It can also write, very bad stuff. So it is what you do with the pencil. That's one. The second thing, the pencil has an eraser at the back. So you can erase all the past. What you need to create is what we call a future forward mindset. And the future forward mindset happens at two levels. I'll give you the good news first. First is the positive one, where you need to tell people that the future can definitely, and history has proven that. The future will always be better than the past. If you want, I'll have a private chat and prove to you how the future will always be better than the past. The second thing is, you have to bring some shock tactics. You have to tell them that if you don't do this right, you'll get killed. And I'll give you the bad news in statistics. If you look at the top Fortune top 100 companies in the last 100 years and the last 20 years, you'd find almost 70 to 80% are being wiped out. They're not even in the ranking. They're out of the industry itself. So that means you need to constantly keep reinventing. Show that to our people and tell them, yeah, we were once a great company. This is who we were. We might become one of that. We might find ourselves in the symmetry. So you may need to use a combination of both carrot and stick. The carrot is that beautiful future that is available for one who is crazy enough to think you can change the world. The carrot is there to frighten the people, to say that one day we will, that's sure. So please, right? So I think we need to judiciously blend both these things to get the message out. That's what. Otherwise, people will be, they'll say, it's called the not invented here syndrome. So people will be happy to, just remain where they are. But a pandemic like this will wake them up. They have to move forward and say, what else can we do? We were great in the past, but what else can we now do to become greater? Right? So that would be the answer.
No. I think, thank you very much. And like you say, in the future, how to be greater is all up to us, how you feel. And you mentioned about the brains, so we have to use our brain much faster and much innovative way. Because God had gave us something that to use, so we should maximize that, and everything. I think we're coming to the end of it, and I hope that we all are taking something from today's CEO Club webinar to sustain business and how to face the current challenges. And I'd like to thank Professor Christopher for his valuable input and presentation. And plus, I'd like to thank all the participants for their valuable time. And I hope to see all again in our upcoming webinars with the interesting topics. So we as a CEO Club always looking for new topics, a new way of educating our business community, but we always are welcome the input and the new ideas that we are very open. So be wherever you are, be very safe and always be healthy and happy. So I like to everybody to take care and thank you again. And I will be ending the webinar now. So we have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.